Good morning, students. Here we are back at Troy in our own little places. I hope you're all doing fine. What I'm going to go over today with you is recording technology. We're going to start with the history and impact because of how large these audio files are and video files. I probably will have to do this in 2 or 3 separate videos, but I will post them to the course materials page, and you can view them today and tomorrow and through the weekend. And if you have any questions whatsoever as you're viewing this, go to the um, discussion and the Ask the Instructor instruction. Ask the Instructor discussion, and I can answer your questions. So we're going to start out with the history and impact of the recording technology that's been developed over the years. I'm going to start with a quote by David Morton, who's responsible for the Sound Recording Technology History site. Quote, "The real significance of the early phonograph was that it transformed the way people listened to music. Where once music was a unique live performance experienced in a public place with a group, now it was heard privately in the home, and it was possible to hear the same performance over and over. According to this argument, the listening experience was cheapened." Um, I don't believe that it was cheapened. I believe that there are experiences and feelings and things you can get out of going to a concert. I don't know if many of you have been to a concert. You're certainly not going to be in one anytime soon until the virus thing is over. But at any rate, what this does is it actually exposes more people to the music. We can have a mass listening of this kind of music instead of people having to pay exorbitant prices to go see recorded music like an orchestra at Christmas time playing Christmas music. That's really a beautiful experience. But remember this quote. There is a difference to the sound, there is a difference to the experience overall between listening to it recorded, listening to it in your car, and listening to it um, in a large room with a lot of people. Making and listening to music have always been a fundamental human need. Before the invention of recording, you could hear music only if someone was prepared to play or sing it. And there is you'll notice on slide 3, we have an image that is a photograph of Vermeer's painting called The Music Lesson. And this goes way back to the, actually, I believe it's to the late Middle Ages. Bruegel's Peasant Wedding is an interesting painting. As you see, people are eating, lots of people are eating, and traveling musicians are walking around the room. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant where someone comes up to your table and plays on a violin. Can be very romantic. There are places like a Mexican restaurant where you'll have maybe a trio come around and play for the people who are dining. Sometimes you don't want that kind of intrusion in your meal, and sometimes you like that. At any rate, most restaurants have some kind of background music to help you digest your food. I'm sorry about the noise. That's my computer getting emails. Anyway, in the Middle Ages, the wheel was the first mechanism used to record sound. With pegs positioned to strike chimes, certain keys, or bells when rotated. And on this slide number 5, you'll see an illustration of a duck that made music. It was a famous automata with sound. It was a mechanical duck developed by Jacques de Vaucanson in 1745. The duck flapped its wings, raised up on its legs, stretched its neck, and quacked. Oh, and it digested food. And we don't want to know what, well, we see a little arrow where the digestion process ends. Pre-Edison early recording devices, being able to record sounds was always a dream of inventors. Actually, it was a dream before they dreamed about recording images. Although musical boxes and barrel organs allowed people to hear music without anyone having to play it, the sound was very limited. If you've heard a player piano, you know what I'm talking about. The barrel orchestrion by Klepetar in Prague about 1860 was an early computer, and it looks like what you might see on a player piano, a large player piano. Scott's phonoautograph from 1857 traced sound waves on a carbonized cylinder with a stylus attached to a diaphragm that vibrated from spoken sounds. It did not record the sound itself. It was only a graphical image of sound. So that's kind of interesting. I can equate that to, let's say, if you leave an audio message on your phone, you will see some kind of computerized etching or image of those sound waves that you made. Then we get into Edison's time, acoustical recording. The Edison phonograph was created in 1877. Ironically, it was not actually intended for music. It records on metal cylinder format, so remember this, the earliest uses thought to be for dictation and other business needs. I guess that Edison, in all of his work, really wanted to be able to develop something that could take notes for him while he was doing his inventing, and he would just be able to dictate it and somebody could take it down. But if you have a machine that does it, then you don't have to pay someone. We saw that with the telegraph that was supposed to output the message that you made on it. And so this would be something that nobody would have to be there and actually receive the message. It would be printed on paper, all with the same idea. The phonograph used tin foil or wax cylinders recorded by speaking into a megaphone. Mixing was done by the placement of the musicians. Remember this now. Mixing, in other words, to make all the sounds, make all the instruments together sound really good together. They would have one recording device, and they would move the musicians so that, your tubas and your very loud instruments would be towards the back, and you'd bring the softer instruments up to the front. So, Thomas Alva Edison, 1878, Edison was granted patent number 200,521 for a phonograph he developed in 1877, which used cylinders wrapped with tin foil. It had a 2 to 3 minute capacity, which actually during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, if somebody put out a 45 RPM record, the 45s were about 3-minute capacity. That's about as long, as a rock song would be, 2.5 to 3 minutes. A sheet of thick tin foil wrapped around a cylinder. In this picture you're seeing, the cylinder is C, right up here. is indented by a stylus attached to diaphragm A. This hand-cranked machine was of the type used to demonstrate the principle. Production models had provisions for keeping the speed constant and other improvements. I'm trying to see. I'm going to stop this right here, and I will continue in the next one. So this will be number 1.